Okay, hello, greetings and welcome. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the basic stuff. I've already done a lot of videos on this, but it's basically what Qigong people need to be successful at Qigong. Now, when you're starting out, forget the idea of Qi. It's trying to cultivate Qi, or the idea of Qi from the beginning is going to lead to failure. What we're looking for is a relationship between muscle tension and fascia tension and how we concentrate the breath outside the body. This opens the door. Okay, so when we raise our hands to build the ball, the first thing about building the ball as an exercise is you're concentrating the awareness outside of your body primarily. Secondarily, you're concentrating your awareness through the relaxation release of the muscles to stretch the joints open, to stretch the fascia, and focus the breath into this space. So most of your attention is on the space between your hands, and there's a little bit of attention on relaxing the joints open, relaxing the muscles, stretching your mind and your willpower into this space. Now, the reason why we do this is very important. If your awareness is inside your body, you cannot feel Jin, vitality. You can't slow it down to produce the feeling of Qi, because the sensory system of your body will capture your mind and control your mind. When you concentrate outside of the body and you're focusing your will through the breath, through the stretch into the ball, you're activating an extrasensory perception. It's not inside your body, it's outside the body. This is the first point, super important. Willpower, breath, stretch, relax and release muscle, activate, stretch through the fascia, lengthening the joints, not flexing. There's no flexion in the joint, you're just lengthening in that stretch. Now, when you concentrate your willpower on the ball, and that extrasensory perception, the spirit senses and the astral senses start switching on, now you'll start to feel the magnetic fluid. With some people, this takes a few minutes. With other people, it takes a few months. Depends on your level of sensitivity. Now, if you're considering my online training program, I don't suggest you take that training or come and train with me until you have mastered this basic aspect of Qigong. Once you've mastered this, you know you can get value from the online training, or you'll get value from training with me in person. If your sensitivity isn't there for feeling life force, concentrating the will on the ball, and getting this heavy fluidic quality building, you just won't get value from attending a workshop or doing my online program. So people who get this feeling very quickly, they're going to learn these skill sets relatively fast, because they're those extrasensory perception senses are already active within that person. So how do we build them? Alright, so willpower, breath, stretch, keep your attention in the ball outside the body, and as you build this energy, you start tuning the breath. When you tune the breath, you slow everything down. So you have this feeling and you slow the feeling down. As you slow it down, it moves from Jin, vitality, to Qi. Now you're cultivating Qi, but the Qi is still being cultivated outside of the body. If you want to bring it into the body, you take this life force feeling, the pre-Qi stage, the Jin stage, and you take that feeling and start breathing it through the space underneath your body. So you imagine your body is an empty vessel, like a balloon. You breathe into the balloon, you gently stretch everything open, relax, hang the muscles, stretch everything open a bit further. And you breathe in through the pores, out through the pores. And the reason why we visualize the body as an empty space is if we visualize muscles, tendons, ligaments, bones, your mind will get stuck by the sensory system of those muscles, of those tendons, of those ligaments, of those bones. So you'll get trapped by the body. But if you just stick to the feeling and breathe it through the field of life force underlying the body, you'll be able to start to feel the life force underlying your bones and your ligaments, your tendons and your fascia and your muscles. So this generates a relationship we call muscle and tendon changing, where you relax the tension out of the muscle and you let the muscles hang, let the fascia activate, and then as the fascia activates, you get more and more energy being produced. So people whose mind naturally occupies more space than their body will feel energy much more quickly. So let me say that again. People whose mind occupies more space than their body will feel energy really quickly, because the extrasensory perception of feeling energy is an out-of-body experience. It's outside the body. It becomes active. So in my case, ironically, I fell out of a tree when I was a kid, 8 years old, dropped out off a flying fox and hit the ground, and my spine twisted, muscles locked up, a lot of weird stuff happened. But for many years, I felt like I was in a dentist chair wanting to get out. I didn't want to be there, I wanted to be out of the body. So I was occupying a very large amount of space as a normal part of my consciousness. So I had a lot of extrasensory perception taking place. I was seeing, feeling, hearing, a lot of weirdness. And that opening up allowed me to, as I matured into an adult and I began training internal energy when I was a teenager, began to look at it and understand it, go, what's happening? And because I'd spent so many years in this expanded state, my perception and understanding, I had a knowing of what was happening. I'd look at a process and I would understand it. My mind just went, that's what's happening. And that's the stuff I share in these videos. It's my interpretation of understanding of all these traditional training models. If I look at someone on YouTube, I create this expanded space, and there's a part of me which interprets that information. So these extrasensory perceptions are dependent very much on your mind occupying space outside your body, so they become more sensitive. And this is very important. You look at the Tai Chi classics, extend your yi to the horizon, extend your mind out to the horizon. So if there's a mountain range around you, you're looking at the edges of that mountain range. And this amplifies your intuitive sensory system. So when we apply this to Qi Kung, we want to get this expanded awareness space first, concentrate the breath and the releasing the muscle, activating the fascia, stretching everything open through that expanded state, and develop your feeling for energy. Now, when we look at things like, when Einstein had his great moments where he figured out formulas, he was daydreaming. He was in a state of extrasensory perception. His mind was expanded. He was occupying a large amount of space. He wasn't restricted to his own intent of his body. He wasn't restricted to his bodily sensation. He was out. In one of the articles I read, he got an inspired idea. It took him 2 years to calculate, mathematically understand that idea. So this speed at which intuition sees things is far faster than the intellect can comprehend. So our intellect and our body's sensory system inside is very limited compared to our intuitive mind. All right, so once we've done the breathing, we've pore breathed and we've got the energy moving through the body and outside the body, we want to expand to fill space. So while you're pore breathing, the room that you're in or the space that you're in, expand your awareness to fill that space. Begin breathing into that space. Now, as you breathe into a space outside your body and through and underneath your body, your extrasensory perception will increase in speed, it will increase in sensitivity. So as soon as you get to the point where you feel energy, breathe into the whole room that you're in, or a confined space around you, like a sphere around you. As soon as you start doing this for a few hours a day, your sensory system will increase. Now, if you start breathing through the eyes, your eye consciousness will come to equanimity and you'll start seeing energy. If you just gently stretch the inner ear to the voice cords, it's like you're popping your ears, stretch down, breathe into your inner ear and breathe through sound. So using sounds to breathe energy. then your sound consciousness will come into equanimity, and you'll start hearing the inner intelligence of trees and living things. If you are breathing the life force through the nose, you'll start getting extrasensory smell. So we have the organ, we have the consciousness of the organ, we have the information going into the organ, and we have the source of the information. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And bridging from the organ of feeling, stretch the fascia, stretching it outside the body. So we're moving from organ to consciousness of feeling, or consciousness of seeing, or consciousness of hearing, or consciousness of taste, or consciousness of scent, or consciousness of inner knowing, the 6 gates. Then from the organ to the consciousness, to the information, to the transmitter of the information. When we go to the transmitter of the information, we get a binding between you and the transmitter, and you intuitively know what's transmitting. So if, let's say, there's a person over there, and I start breathing through my eyes, and I go from organ, eye consciousness, the information or light coming through from the person, and then breathing into the person themselves, I'll start to see the vital field of that person. If I release time and go into the astral, I'll start to see the astral field of that person. These extrasensory perceptions are very easy to develop, and I'm surprised that everyone's not psychic. This stuff is so simple. You just need to tune to very fine bandwidths. Now, if you're clairvoyantly looking at life force, for me, I go out to about this spectrum, a little bit further, about there, on my peripheral vision. So while I'm looking, I just see my hands on the edges of my vision. If I release time and go into the astral, okay, it's roughly about there where my left hand is. And then I start getting astral perceptions. If I want to see the spiritual development of a person, I go out further. And if I want to look into the Akasha, that's outside of time and space, I go full peripheral vision. So this method of developing your sensory system by recognizing the organ, recognizing the consciousness of the organ, and then looking at the information coming in, and then the source of the information, and breathing energy, life force, vitally, release time, astrally, release space, mentally, go into the infinity quality of Akasha, breathe the Akasha through Akashically into the Wuji, and then invite non-dual light in, and you activate the higher frequency of the spirit sense. So this is a very simple process. Just the information I've given you right there should be enough for you to develop an ability to see vital energy. Feel it, and then breathe the feeling through the eyes, and incorporate it into those 4 steps that I talked about. Okay, I hope this helps with understanding extrasensory perception and some of the rules around how to develop it. The best book I've ever encountered, and I've read many hundreds of books, is Initiation to Hermetics by Franz Barden. I haven't seen anything even close to it. It is a fantastic book, well worth spending some time and breaking down. Forget the theory part, just jump straight to the practice, start practicing it. The theory won't make sense until you've been through at least the first 3 to 4 steps of the book. Go back to the theory and you go, I got it, you understand it. All right, thank you for your time, and see you in the next video.